Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our second international activity of this school year, entitled Empowered Learning, Building Resilient Study Habits. Am I right, Patricia? That's what it's called.
Yes, that is what it is.
Okay, thank you. So again, you've been informed that this meeting will be recorded and then will be posted on our page to be shared with the rest of your schoolmates so they can benefit from it too. As I said earlier, this is the perfect time to have this activity, to have this seminar, to discuss this topic for, we just began our school year and you have a lot to go through in the school year, especially as you've advanced one more level. Some of you to senior high school, some of you are graduating this. Are you graduating this year? Okay. Yes, okay, the 12th graders, yes. So obviously there's a lot of challenges ahead of you, and we just wanted to set up this activity to help you cope with those challenges, academic or personal, as you go through the rest of your high school journey. Okay, so without further ado, let me give the floor to Ms. Patricia Sumang. She has been a friend of our school since 2021, speaking and hosting at our events. And soon we're praying that we can have her in person. But once again, we must share this space on Zoom so she could share her expertise on building resilient study habits. So let me put the spotlight on Ms. Patricia Sumang. And can we give her a big hand, everybody?
Thank you. Zeke, can you give me share screen access, please?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Also, first off, thank you all for giving me the platform to share what I've learned in my experience and in my own classes. And also thank you all for being here. I know 2 hours is a long time. I also speak Tagalog. I have limited Tagalog, but I can converse. So if you all want to speak in Tagalog, write in Tagalog, I can understand and do my best to speak in Tagalog as well.
Okay. So let me put the spotlight on Patricia. And are you all set? Okay. Floor is yours, Patty.
Okay, thank you. And again, if anyone needs me to stop or clarify anything, please just say so in the chat. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so first off, welcome to my workshop on empowered learning and building resilient study habits. I recently graduated in June with a psychological science degree and a minor in public health from UC Irvine. And a little bit about me. I met Zeke when Zeke was a Fulbright teaching assistant at Skyline College. And from then, we've been close friends since then, and we've been working together in various spaces. Some details about my school experience. This is on the left. This is pictures of my ate and my younger sister when I was in middle school. I just graduated. Similar in the Philippines, we have the K-12 system. So this is me just graduating middle school. This picture was taken in 2020 when I was in high school. Because it was COVID, I didn't have a graduation. So that's why I just found a cute picture of me and my friends in my business club. Right here, this is a picture of the day I graduated from Skyline College. And this college, I was here for about 2 years. I got an associate's degree for transfer in psychology. And then after getting my prerequisites at that 2-year college, I then transferred to UC Irvine. UC Irvine is a lot bigger than my community college. There's about 30,000 students. Typically people spend about 4 years at UC Irvine, or in an undergraduate program, but in America, it's more typical or like more common for people to spend maybe 5 or even 6 years in undergrad. Yeah. And if anyone has any questions about the school system, in America, feel free to send a text in the chat. Okay, so what am I currently up to after graduating? Right now, I work as a behavior technician. So basically, I'm a therapist for children. I work I go to my clients' homes and then I provide therapy for them for specifically for young people on the autism spectrum. But I am looking for a more stable job because I do want to work full time. So I'm applying to jobs in like healthcare, in education, nonprofits, and that type of realm. And the reason why I'm saying this, like saying what I'm doing, what I'm up to, is in case if anyone here is interested in psychology and wants to learn more about what it's like being a psychology student or working as a behavior technician. You can text me. I can give you my info after the presentation. So I also want to get to know all of you. So if everyone you can unmute or enter in the chat. So you can just say your name, what year you're in, and something you are looking forward to this year. It could be something school related, non-school related, like really anything. And the fourth thing is what you're hoping to learn today. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to type that in the chat. But also if you want to be brave and unmute, you can do that as well. Zeke, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself unmuted, if that's okay.
Certainly. I'm shy. Okay. Well, hi, everybody. A lot of the kids here are my students this year or have been my students previously or are a part of the Rizalite, but not everyone is. I'm Zeke Recto. You can call me Sir Zeke or Mr. Recto. If you call me Sir Zeke, please say the Z, okay? All right. I teach grades 10, 11, and 12 English subjects. And my favorite section to teach is just this. I'm not saying that. Okay? I don't have favorites. And I met Patricia as she was my executive producer for my play, the play that I co-wrote with Emmy Robles and directed back in 2022. And yeah, it was one heck of a show, and it was very memorable to us. So I hope that Patricia will be able to help you with building study habits, building resilience as you traverse your journey as high schoolers this school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Zeke, for unmuting and sharing. And again, it's your name, year, something you're looking forward to, and what you're hoping to learn today. I realized I didn't even answer my own question. My name is Patricia. I just graduated. I'm 22 years old. I'm looking forward to this workshop and getting to meet all of you, but also I'm looking forward to moving to a new place next month. So that'll be really cool. And I'm just hoping to learn more about you all. I am giving you all information, but it is interactive. So everything that you share, I will be learning from as well. So yeah. Could we get at least 3 people to introduce themselves? Oh, thank you. I see a chat coming in. Thank you for sharing. Oh, now they're all coming in. Thank you. Thank you, Jayanne, and thank you, Kayana. Okay. And then we'll wait for one more person to share. And ask for the things you want to learn today. We'll definitely talk about different study techniques and study habits. Okay, thank you. Yay, we got 2 more. Okay. Oh, thank you, Sophia. I want to learn more about you too. Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Heidi. Okay. I think I will go ahead and move on, but at any point, feel free to text your introduction in the chat. I'd love to meet all of you. Okay. So our objectives today is to mainly check in with ourselves and to see where we are at in terms of our studying habits and what we can do going forward, like what is realistic for us and what we can do. Hopefully to leave with a sense of empowerment and to take charge of our learning. Learning is something that we will continuously do throughout our lives. So definitely want to have you all feel a sense of control when you're studying and learning anything. I'm going to talk about how our brain works, the limitations of our brain, and how to really maximize our brain, knowing what it can do and what it may not be able to do. Going over some study techniques, things like the Pomodoro technique, those type of things that you may have seen online, and then also talking about healthy versus unhealthy stress, because stress isn't just bad. We can use stress as fuel for the things we do in the future. I also see that we have some more introductions. Thank you, Chriselle, Princess, and Marquis. Thank you, thank you. And thank you, Samantha. I just see that you said something. Okay. So before we begin, this is going to be a long presentation. So find a comfortable position to get situated. Make sure you're comfy. If you want any pillows, if you wanna like be with your dog. So first we're going to sit up straight. Take 3 slow centering breaths. Breathe in, hold, and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in again, last time. And breathe out. And the other reason why we do this is because our breath has a lot of power. It controls our heart rate, which controls our stress, and is also really helpful if we are starting to feel anxious. it's important to try to ground ourselves and take a pause before we begin anything. And know that wherever you may be coming from, wherever you may be going, just use this time to really reflect. And I also wanted to give credit to the UCI Center for Student Wellness and Health Promotion. I actually got this idea from them. Okay. So this is another reflection. You don't necessarily have to share, but if you would like to share, that would be great. So spend maybe a minute or two, think about what do you do to prepare for studying, how do you study, and what are your challenges with studying? So I'm going to give everyone a few minutes, maybe a minute to type something in. Okay. I see we have some more introductions. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lance. Yes, studying with less distractions. Yes, I see you. I see you on that. I also struggle to stay focused. Thank you, Carissa. Also, if I'm saying anyone's names incorrectly, I'm so sorry. I see enhanced performance. Great. Ooh, how to manage stress. Great. Thank you, Jaden. And I see Anne. Different study habits, more interesting things. Yes, yes. If you have any questions, just text. And you all can also just privately message me as well if anyone's shy. So that is okay. Oh, you want to know the life of a psychologist? That's great. I have many friends who are counselors or who are psychologists who I talk to, so I can definitely talk to you about that. I also do a lot of research on my own as well. But also know I'm not a psychologist. I am working towards maybe becoming a psychologist, but I do know like quite a bit about it. Avoid cramming, yes. Mhm. Mhm. Always having coffee, I see. So coffee is kind of like your fuel for studying. Distractions again. A problem I suffer from maintaining motivation. Oh, yes, that is so hard. School is a marathon, not a sprint. That's something that I love to say because we're going to be in school for a long time. You all have this whole next school year coming up. So definitely pacing yourself, checking in with yourself to rest um, is very important. Hello, Sophia. I look forward to learning study habits. Yeah. I see. Okay, thank you all for typing in the chat. I'm going to move on just for the sake of time, but I promise to read all of your chats later. But thank you all. I also asked because in case I don't go over anything that you all mentioned, I'd like to give you some resource like later on. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move on, but thank you all so much. Okay. So, like as many of you said in the chat, challenges with studying can consist of having anxiety. Maybe there's certain subjects that make you be like, "Ooh, I don't want to do that," and that may cause you to procrastinate a bit because you might be worried about what might happen. If you do it like, "Oh, what if I get a bad grade?" Maybe you're worried about failing, that type of stuff. For me, at least when I was um, in high school, I was very nervous when it came to timed writes. Every Friday in my English class, we would have the whole class period to write an essay, and usually it had to be at least 1 page, but every time that day would come up, I'd be so anxious the whole day and worried about like, oh, what if I don't know what to say? And like basically a lot of my thoughts that I would have during the time to write would prevent me from actually focusing. So it was important that I like try to block out those thoughts so I could focus on what I was doing. But anyway, back to challenges with studying, life events. Maybe you have a lot of things going on, like maybe you have lots of clubs, maybe you're traveling, or maybe something has happened in your family that's making it so that like it's hard for you to study. Maybe you're busy with a lot of things. You might be juggling work. You might have to take care of your family, an older relative, a younger sibling. Like there's a lot of things that could be happening. Or sorry, maybe you're burnt out. Um, that's something that can happen when you're really stressed. I definitely feel this sometimes, a lot of the time, but it's important to address that before it gets worse. And as a lot of you said, distractions, that we have so many distractions, like our phone, our friends, our family sometimes when they want to talk to us. Maybe it's internal distractions, like your mind is really busy and you have a lot going on that prevents you from focusing. Maybe it's distractions like outside, like you might be studying in a cafe or at school and there's a group of people talking really loud. Like there are a lot of things that can get in the way of you focusing, even when you really want to. And then also priorities and people pleasing, like um, being able to like prioritize studying more or not prioritizing it enough because of other stuff. Okay, so now going into like the content of what we're doing today, I wanted to differentiate between learning and studying. Learning is when we grasp a knowledge or skill. So we do this when we have different experiences. And we also learn through our five senses. So we learn by seeing, uh, by hearing things, by tasting, by feeling, by smelling things. So learning is a whole different experience. We learn every day, but we don't retain everything that we've learned. Some examples of experiences that we learn is when we cook, when we play a game, or in the classroom when we want to grasp the Pythagorean theorem. Studying helps to retain what we've learned. It helps to solidify it and transfer it into long-term storage, which we'll talk about later. We practice studying when we use flashcards, when we try to memorize, we try to reread, when we write, those type of things. Okay. And going into memory, so this is more about like the neurobiological things that happen in our brain. Short-term memory is the ability to hold information for a brief period. So this is like when someone tells you their phone number, um, and your ability to remember what they just told you and then put it in your phone really quickly. That's short-term memory. It's really quick. Um, your brain can usually only retain that information for about 30 seconds. It's really quick. Long-term memory is your more like you're able to store and recall information from like a long time ago. So that could be like your core memories, if any of you watched Inside Out. Like, so that could be like weddings, your birthday, how to ride a bike, and important years in your life. Your working memory, um, some psychologists consider working memory and short-term memory to be the same thing, but they're used differently. With the working memory, this lasts longer than short-term memory. This is your ability to manipulate information. So working memory is the gateway into long-term memory. This is wrong. So it's going from short-term memory into long-term memory. So some examples of that could be when you add and subtract numbers, when you need to remember what happened in a story, or when you're like doing some chismes with your friends and you're trying to remember what like someone told you and like what you heard, that's working memory. And then, so this is a visual of it. Sensory input, sensory memory. This is what you learn. When you don't try to actively remember that information, you lose it. And so whatever you pay attention to when you're in an environment, that is what usually you remember. So that goes into your short-term memory. To maintain that memory, you have to study and really try to like remember it. And I'll be teaching you all different ways to get that information and that knowledge from short-term memory into long-term memory. But also wanted to point out, just because something is in your long-term memory doesn't mean that you're going to remember it forever. You have to continuously review things, or else you're going to lose your memory, or you're going to lose that information you've just learned. Okay. I hope that made sense. I know it was a lot of information. I can clarify later as well, but if you want any more clarification, please just send it in the chat. So now we're going over the limits of our brain. So as I said earlier, what we pay attention to is what we'll remember, all that. So selective attention is when you focus on a particular piece of information while ignoring irrelevant information. So this could be by putting a pause on your thoughts and limiting your distractions. And I also want to note that attention requires energy, and energy is a finite resource. You don't have a lot of it. So an example of selective attention is when our like the Olympics, a runner has to focus on a race, on like them running while people are cheering. Instead of being like, oh, there's people cheering for me, they have to continuously think about trying to get faster and faster. Another example is when a student is in a loud room and they're talking to their friend. In that moment, they're focusing on what their friend is saying, even though there's so much noise all around them. So selective attention is just being mindful of what you are focusing on. When it comes to short-term memory, we can only remember 7 pieces of information at a time, maybe plus or minus 2, depending on who you are, and like your study techniques. So George Miller's magic number says that only 7 pieces of information. So that is important because when you're taking notes, it's important that you write things down so that you can go back to it for later, because you won't be able to remember everything that you learn in a class. And then also distinguishing between learning for understanding versus learning for remembering. Understanding is when we can actually apply things to our own life, apply things to different situations. So this is when you're able to describe in your own words, and that means it's in your long-term memory. And when you're able to understand something, it's retained in your long-term memory much longer. And understanding requires more deeper knowledge. So this promotes creativity, problem solving, and can be used in multiple settings. Remembering something, it's just like, oh yeah, I remember what shirt she was wearing, or like it's just very shallow knowledge. It's great to remember because it helps to like understand and apply different concepts, and it also helps to save time and mental effort when you need to recall it frequently used information. Okay, I see a message in the chat. Okay, I see introductions. So the testing effect, I wanted to bring this up because in order to go to long-term memory, it's important that you repeatedly test yourself and you continuously assess your understanding, because simply underlining notes or highlighting won't make you remember it if you're not really consciously thinking about it like all the time. So Self-testing helps to increase your understanding and your ability to remember information. It's important that you practice this, practice active recalling, assess what you remember. And self-testing also helps you correct like incorrectly remembered information. So you're able to check yourself. So basically it's testing before the actual test. As I said earlier, long-term memory doesn't guarantee you're going to remember it forever. That's why you have to review things and you have to review it a lot earlier than your exam. So this is an example or the diagram. So on the left is the memory retention, how well you're able to remember something. And this axis is the elapsed time in days. So here you see on when you first learn information, it's 100%, but then you forget it, review it again, and then you forget it. So that's why it's important to continuously review things over long periods of time. So now we're going to do a little quiz just to make sure that everyone understands and like retains. So what is Miller's magic number 7? What does that mean? You can unmic or you can put it in the chat. It has to do with what you remember. I'm gonna give it maybe 20 seconds before I see the answer. Oh, someone raised their hand. Go ahead. Unmic, feel free.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. Miller's magic number 7 is actually about 7 informations that only the human brain can retain or can hold in short-term memory.
Yes, thank you. And what is your name?
My name is George, ma'am, but you can call me Van.
Van. Okay, thank you, Van. And then I also see we have some responses in the chat. Thank you, Elise and Sophia. Yes, you are both correct. Thank you all. Okay, this is the same question. How many pieces of information can you retain in short-term memory? Okay, and then here's another question. Oh, before I see Lance responded, yes, the number of pieces information short-term memory can hold, plus or minus 2, yes. So it could be either 5 or up to 9. And then why should we test ourselves when studying? Okay, I'll give it another 20 seconds. Or maybe 25 seconds, because this is a more explain yourself question. Yes, Lance, feel free to unmic. Or is this Van again?
We should test ourselves in order to make sure that we are not misunderstanding the information that we are studying, or to assure ourselves that we are learning that information correctly.
Yes, such a good answer. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, does one more person want to answer? Or how are we? Okay, I see another answer. Thank you, Sophia. Yes, so the information will be retained in our brain and great. Okay. So next question, what are 2 differences between short-term memory and long-term memory? Go ahead, you can unmic.
When it comes to short-term memory, you can usually only hold about 5 to 9 pieces of short-term memory information. While in long-term memory, you can recall and store much more pieces of information using your long-term memory. You can also use your long-term memory and then becoming short-term memory if you are unable to practice or maintain the um, long-term memory.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Lance. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Thank you everyone for participating. I think I have one more question. Oh, no, I do not. Okay, that was all the questions for this section. For our next section, we're going to be talking about different study techniques. Before I move on, does anyone have any questions for me, or are we ready for the next section? Okay, since everyone's ready, I lied. We're actually going to take a stretching break. So part of studying is that you shouldn't not move for a while, unless you're really in the flow. It's important that you move your body every now and then. It's good for your health. So right now, I'm going to ask everyone to get up and do maybe some stretches, move your head, like rotate it. Yeah, just do different stretches. And then we're going to come back at 11 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, that should be 2 p.m. here. Everybody be back at 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to start again. So I'm going to say some studying techniques to help us convert our short-term memories into long-term memories. And I know it seems I'm going really fast. So if you want me to talk about anything more, or if you want any resources on anything, I can send that to you later on as well. Yeah. But anyways, the main point is to make sure you all study, because the more you practice and apply knowledge to different situations, the stronger, the more likely you'll remember it, and the stronger your neurons, the connections in your neuron will be. So, yeah. Okay. So in order to have optimal learning, it's good to space out your studying across successive days. So that's basically the opposite of cramming. Try to, if you know an exam is coming up, try to spend at least 1 hour. If you don't have 1 hour, that's fine. You can spend at least 15 minutes just looking at the content and trying to remember what you learned. And if you don't want to do that by yourself, that's okay. You can ask your friends, form study groups, talk to your teachers about this topic as well. Try to engage in conceptual understanding instead of memorizing little bits of information without context. And this allows for more problem solving and application to different situations. So for example, don't just remember a random fact without knowing how that thing came to be. Like understand like the theory behind things too. And then third point, again, self-testing so that you're able to retrieve information. So here's some study techniques specifically for managing your study. So there is this method called interleaving. Has anyone here heard of that before? I'm just curious. If you have, you can just put an emoji in the chat, your favorite emoji. But if you haven't heard of it, that is okay. Okay. So interleaving is when you study one topic for like maybe 20 minutes or like 30 minutes, and then you switch to a different topic. So usually blocking practice could be it could be topic A, topic A, topic A for like maybe like 2 hours, and then topic B, 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 then C, C, C. So it's like really chunking it out. But with interleave practice, you do A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C. it's the pros of this is that you're able to retain the information better. And also sometimes it can get a little boring and redundant to just focus on one thing at a time. So if you're someone who struggles to stay engaged when you're studying, this might be a good method for you. There were some studies that were conducted for this, and they found that students who did interleaving versus blocking scored higher on the exams. So if that may help you and motivate you to maybe trying this out. Cons is that at the time, it might be difficult to manage your time with this because and it may feel like you're learning less, but I'd recommend you to try it out and see what works for you. If you want to spend more time on a subject than others, that's okay too. Modify this technique based on what works for you and what you need at that time. Yeah. Another technique, I think this was really popular during COVID. It was when you have periods of 25 minutes of uninterrupted focus time, and then you take a 5-minute break in between. So after every 4 Pomodoro intervals, you would take a longer break of about 15 to 30 minutes. So the purpose of this was that you would break bigger tasks into more manageable ones. So you might have a different task for each period of focus
Dapat
time.
pakita natin.
Yes. And then regular breaks are important, so you stay efficient and that you stay on task. And the studies that were done on this show that there were improved focus, more productivity. It helped to stay on task and have discipline and keep students motivated. Cons is that it might be difficult to get into a flow state. Very briefly, a flow state is just when it's uninterrupted focus time and you're like locked in and you just want to do the work and take no breaks, which is actually really good for your brain. But this technique is great for when you need help with being more disciplined. Then we have the Eisenhower matrix. This was inspired by a president of like America. This is named after him. So this is great for people who are in leadership positions. So they break it up into a diagram. So at the top, we have our, you can break things into like a 4 square thing. So in one corner, we have urgent. So these tasks are urgent. And then at the very top would be our important task. And then our not important task are at the bottom. And then at the right column would be our not urgent task. So for example, your urgent and your important task would be that they have to be done right now, right away. So like there is like an emergency or a crisis in the office and some pressing deadlines. But then we have our not urgent but important task. So this is when you would decide if you need to do this today or can it wait for another time. So they're important, but you don't have to do them right now. So that could be going to the gym, and spending time with family, which is very, very important. But you have to decide like, can I go to this party or like spend this 10 minutes reading a book with a friend or like with my younger sibling, or can I do that tomorrow? Yeah, it's like, honestly, it's really hard to decide like what to do versus what not to do. Because as for me, I'm someone who prioritizes the people in my life, and I like to try to make sure that I schedule this time with them. And then we have our urgent and not important task. So this is tasks where we don't necessarily have to do it, but we can ask someone else to do it, or we can ask someone else to help us. So that could be scheduling a meeting. So maybe you're are scheduling like a hangout with a friend. Maybe instead of you planning that hangout out, you ask your friend like, hey, is it okay if you figure out the details? And then next time I'll be the one to do it. So like you take turns. And then not urgent, not important. that could be social media time. So that could be, like doom scrolling or like just going on TikTok. You don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time doing that. So maybe you could limit that time and stick to just 30 minutes of going on Instagram or TikTok. Yeah. And there are a lot more time management techniques. So I included this link here in case anyone wants to read more about them. Okay, so our next topic is it's important to be engaged in learning. And first off, avoid passive studying because that is a waste of time. Because you won't really retain anything that you're learning during this time. The quality of your study time is way more important than the hours that you spend studying if it's passive. So in order to make sure that you are being engaged while you're studying, you need to prepare yourself. Have you eaten? Have you slept? Make sure that you prioritize the basics. Make sure you're in a good environment to avoid distractions. Ask yourself, do you like studying at school, in a library? Do you like being in a quiet room? Or do you like being in a room where there's some noise, but not too much? And if you have to study at home, but it's loud, maybe you can talk to your family to please be quiet during this time and this time so that you can get some work done. Make sure you have all your supplies with you. And also it was found that previewing your study resources before you begin can actually be really helpful because it helps to prime your brain like, oh, that's what I have to do. So I'll like get ready for that. And then before an exam, it was found that it was helpful for students to create their own study guide instead of asking their teachers to. So for me personally, I like when the teacher has a study guide, so it helps me know what to remember. But before you look at a study guide that someone else has made, you should train your brain to try to recall what you learned in class. And you can do that with different study techniques that I'll mention in a bit. So how to test yourself? You can test yourself all the time in any subject. Like for example, when you're reading, pause every few paragraphs and recall what you've just read. Try to read when you're reading, read it, recite it out loud to make sure that you're engaging your you're recalling it, and you can also hear yourself say it if you need to hear something to learn it. You can also write it down, write notes in your own words. Don't just copy something that you see, and ask yourself questions. Note down key concepts because, like I said earlier, your short-term memory, you're not going to remember everything. So just try to remember like the big ideas first and then go back later. And then you can use free resources to help you with studying like Quizlet. So mind mapping. Mind mapping is a great tool to use when you're trying to remember what you learned. So this is like you have your main topic in the middle, and then you have other subtopics and then things related to that. So we have mind mapping. Your learning style is that you read, listen, summarize, and then it just keeps branching out until it's like you're forming different connections by writing it down, which can be great for recalling. And then it's important to distinguish between recalling something and just recognizing something. So when you recall something, this is the act of when you retrieve information or events from the past while lacking a specific cue to help in retrieving the information. I guess to give you an example, like when you meet someone at school and like in a class, you have some class with them, and then you see that face again later, you're like, oh, I recognize that person. that's you recognizing that you've seen this person before. And then recalling is when you're like, oh, I recall that that person was really nice and that person helped me study for a math test. So recognizing it's just very surface level things and requires prompting, less cognitive effort. And an example of that in a learning space would be like a word search puzzle. With recalling, it's more cognitive effort, does not require prompting. And an example of that would be a fill in the blank question. And at school, you're more likely to see a fill in the blank than a word search puzzle. So it's important to try to work your recall skills. And here are some more examples of what you can do when you're reviewing. So review, recall, and rephrase something that you learned, and then check for corrections. And how you can actively recall using flashcards, asking yourself questions, teaching someone else, and writing what you know, like what you can do with mind mapping. So now we're going to engage in one form of active recall. So what are some ways we can be engaged in learning? Can anyone say something that we just went over? Also, if anyone needs me to go over anything, again, let me know. I just realized I was talking really fast, so go ahead. Okay, I'll give everyone maybe 20 seconds to, I'll give everyone 30 seconds to think of some ways. Oh, I see someone's raising their hand. Go ahead, Lance.
A way to engage in learning is prioritizing the quality of your own study time over the quantity of your study time. Because if you have a lot of study time, but you don't learn much, what is the purpose of your study time? Another thing is to prioritize asking yourself, are you ready to study? And what is the requirement for you to study?
Lance, can you say the last part one more time? I had some trouble hearing. Just the last part one more time. But other than that, though, I definitely thank you for sharing as well and unmiking once more. Oh no, it's okay, Lance. It's okay. You can also text in the chat as well. But thank you so much for participating. Okay, I see that some people have messaged me privately, so I'll just read what they said. Some people have said you should avoid passive reading and use different study techniques. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And then I think I had a question. I'm not too sure. Let's see. Okay, I think I remember seeing a question earlier and it was about passive learning. Let me just go back to that slide. Oh, I see, passive studying. I'd say passive studying is when you're not really engaged. So like you go to, for me, when I have online classes, so sometimes I would just like watch a lecture, maybe watch a video that was presented to me, and I would just like sit there and not think. I just like let the information play and go, but I'm not actively making connections. Like I'm not taking notes. I'm not highlighting key points. Passive studying could be when you're not asking yourself questions like, oh, that are making connections, basically. Does that help clarify anything? Or does anyone need more examples on what passive studying is? Let's see. Okay. But basically the point, make sure you're engaged while studying. Yeah. I'm going to move on to the next question. Why is active recall important? And I was thinking of maybe calling on some people if that's okay. Maybe calling on 2 people, but I'm gonna wait a few seconds first. Okay, so why do we think active recall is important? And maybe we can hear from someone who hasn't shared yet. And everyone feel free to text in the chat as well. I'll give it a few more seconds, maybe 5 more seconds. Okay. Oh, I got a message. Someone said active. Oh, a lot of people messaged me. Thank you all. You can also put it over the, you can also say it to everyone, but I'll just read what people said. Active recall is important for us to recall the information that we learned, so that will be a long-term memory information. Yes. Perfect. Another person said, active recall is important because it helps you remember information better and for longer periods. By actively retrieving what you've learned, you strengthen your memory and understanding, which makes studying more effective and helps you do better on exams. Another person said, it is important to actively recall or constantly review things in order to retain that knowledge. Another person said, active recall is important so we can remember or retain information better in the long run. Wow, there's so many messages. Thank you all. I'll keep reading them. It is important because an individual can retain their information much better. Active recall is important because you can enhance your learning and helps you remember even more better than the long-term memory. Another person said, because what you learn is not permanent. When you're not actively recalling it, you'll eventually forget it. Okay, I'm gonna read 2 more, I think. I'll read 2 more. Active recall is important because it strengthens your memory and helps you retain information better. By actively retrieving information from your brain, you reinforce your learning and make it easier to remember in the future. The other person said it's important to see if you learned something after studying and can go back if you didn't remember the thing you were studying. Yes. Everyone's got the main idea and like the point that active recall is important so that you remember things. And our last message is active recall is crucial because it improves the memory retention, deepens understanding, identifies knowledge gaps, and boosts long-term retention. By actively retrieving information, you engage more effectively with the material and enhance your problem-solving skills. That's perfect. Thank you all for everyone who shared it in the DMs. Also feel free at any point to continue DMing me for questions. Anything. Okay. So our next point. This isn't a question. Oh, actually, no. This is a question I'm asking all of you. So what do you all think stress is? What does stress look like? What does stress feel like? When are you stressed? Like, feel free to just send me anything you know about stress. And you can unmic as well. You can also say, is stress good? Is stress bad? Like, what is stress? Mhm. Ah, I got a DM. Someone said, I guess stress is just a trigger. Since you told us earlier that it's not bad all the time. Yes, stress is not bad for sure. I think I wouldn't say stress is a trigger though. I'd say stress is your response to um other factors. Mhm. And stress can be a mental response, something that you think. It could be emotional response, um, how you feel. And it could also, stress can also present itself in your body as well. Maybe stress can cause pain. Maybe you notice your back is hurting because you've been hunched, or you notice your neck is hurting because you've been looking down for a while. Stress does present itself in different ways. Oh, I see. Someone actually said that as well. Alessandra says stress is a feeling of tension or pressure that comes when you face challenges or demands that you find difficult to handle. It can affect both your mind and body, making you feel overwhelmed or anxious. Other people have said, I think stress is an overwhelming feeling caused by emotional and mental strain. Then Sophia says, stress is a mental tension caused by a difficult situation. Wow, yeah, there's a lot of responses. I'll try to read them all. I'll also let you all read them as well. I'm gonna read them to myself for now. Tension. Oh, I see. Some people said stress is being pressured or being unsatisfied with your results. I'm gonna say this later as well. That would feeling pressure or unsatisfied, that would be distress. So that is a type of stress. Mhm. I see our body's response to pressure. Way to cope. Thank you all for your responses. There's a lot. Ooh, Jane, that's great. I see you're talking about stress management and you say relaxation, time management, and support. Yes, very important. And Emmanuel, I agree. Stress can be negative but it can also drive people. I see. Oh, thank you for the visualization as well, Lance. I see Mark responded. Base. I love the World Health Organization, and you're citing your sources too. Oh, I love that as well. Okay. I'm gonna give it another maybe minute or two since it looks like there's a lot of messages coming up. Okay, I'm gonna wait a few more seconds. Okay. Thank you all for your responses for stress. I feel like everyone definitely has a good idea about what stress is and already has seen things about stress management and how stress can be a driver of change. So I wanted to show you all a spectrum of stress. Stress, as a lot of you have said already, isn't always bad. So on the y-axis is the performance, x-axis would be the level of stress. The optimal level of stress would be right in the middle. So it's not too much stress, it's not too little stress. When you have too little stress, you might feel bored, fatigued, frustrated, and not that engaged when it comes to things. Then you have your comfort zone. So this is where you're like, ooh, I like this. I can do this. Like, this is great. But you're not really learning anything new. It's just where you're comfortable. And then you get a little more stress. And this is where a lot of the growth happens, right here. Then we have fatigue, when you start to feel distressed. And then burnout happens when there's way too much stress happening. And we are going to be at different places throughout our lives, like of this stress level. Sometimes, especially for certain groups of people, the tendencies for them to be on one spectrum or the other spectrum. And it's important when we are in one section that we reach out and ask for help. Maybe that could be like talking to a teacher, trying to find like different resources for you so that you can go into the optimal level of stress. So it's important that we manage our stress. Because when we are over here on the right side of the spectrum, our bodies are not in a good place where we can properly solve things, properly learn things, or be engaged. So we want to try to stay here in the optimal area, because here is when it's perfect for being creative, for being able to feel more in control of things and be satisfied with what we're doing. So yeah, but the goal is to be right in the middle. Okay, and the positive stress, we call that eustress. And to do this, begins with step one, you confront the challenge. So you are challenged, but it doesn't seem too overwhelming. Your neuroendocrine system releases the required hormones necessary so you can take on that task. And your body is like, yay, I'm being challenged, I'm growing, this is great. This is also another reason why people who are on the older side like to engage in mental like stimulation, they like to do crossword puzzles, stay active, because that helps to continue challenging their brain. Because when you are older and you start to not do things that you used to do before, the aging process happens a lot faster. So if you want to stay young and active, you need to have a healthy amount of stress. Anyway, the second step, now that you feel great, you're confident, and you know that you can do this, you have to take the necessary steps and use dedication to accomplish your goal. Once you accomplish your goal, you feel more validated, you have confidence, your body goes back to like an okay state. And like, yeah. So I wanted to ask all of you, when do you experience eustress? Like, when do you feel a little challenged, but it's not too overwhelming? Let me think of some examples for me. Oh, did someone just raise their hand and then unraise it? I think I may have seen someone raise their hand. Well, who was that?
Si Lance po.
Oh, okay. Hello, Lance. Go ahead.
Um, I experience stress whenever I play games, especially when I experience a new part of that game, and especially at bosses, when I overcome them, I feel very happy, very accomplished. But as for in school, whenever I see high scores in my exams, or when I am able to well, answer a question of my teachers, or see high grades, or be an high honor.
I see. Yay! Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So what I heard is that you experience huge stress when you play games. Um, Feel free to let me know what games you play. I also love games. And then you said you also feel like a sense of accomplishment when you raise your hand, when you're in the honors list, and that's great. For sure, for sure. Thank you. Okay, I'm getting a lot of direct messages, so I will read some of them out loud. Okay, someone says, I feel eustress whenever we have recitation in class. I experience eustress when I do something that makes me feel like I accomplished something. Okay, when I use my flashcards and studying. Okay, okay. I like how you're using like study examples too. Oh, we have a question. Okay. I think it is a question. Let me double check. Okay, they have a question about this. Is the growth and learning zone? I'd say yes. To the they're asking about the growth and learning zone. I'd say learning something new can definitely be uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. But yes, this is the zone when you do learn something new. Yes. Okay, and then I have some more direct messages. People experience eustress when they join competitions or direct a play in our school. Oh my gosh, you directed a play? That is amazing. Ah, Dark Souls 3 and HSR. Oh, okay. I don't think I've played Dark Souls 3, but I might have to look at it. I experience eustress when I try something new. That's great. Ooh, we have some artists. Someone says that they experience eustress when they experience art. Okay. So I'm glad that you all are saying different situations when you experience eustress when it comes to studying, but outside of studying, because on top of being a student, it's important that you have that you have a life outside of studying, because all those things that you do will help fuel your studying, help fuel your learning, and help you gain different perspectives. So that's great. Okay. Does anyone have any questions or want further clarification on anything? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on. I'm actually nearing the end of my presentation. So um, any questions, start thinking about them so you can ask at the end. And then challenge stress into action. So how to make stress work for you. So I guess for this part, really try to find out what works for you, what doesn't work for you when it comes to like your study techniques. Notice how you feel in different situations when you're studying. But I'm trying to remember what I meant when I said challenging stress. But basically, what I mean by channeling stress into action is to try to manage your stress so that it doesn't ever get to this point if you can help it. But definitely external events may make it go to this point. But when you channel that stress, You can use it to do really like pretty amazing things. When it comes to things like working out, our like with progressive overload, the more you try to lift heavier little by little, the stronger you'll get. And just like studying, the more you study, the more you paint, the more you swim, the more you like run, the better you'll get, the easier it'll be. So I guess my main point for channeling stress into action is to just keep at it. You won't always have good days when it comes to like or like good times, or you may find that like, oh, I didn't study as much as I wanted to today. It's important that you refine your study goal as you go, like your plan as you go. I hope that made sense. So when it comes to dealing with stress, in conclusion, a healthy amount of stress means better health and better cognitive performance. When you are starting to experience burnout, try to meditate. Know that it's okay to take some time for yourself too. Try to set reasonable expectations for yourself. Let's say you didn't have time to study and the test is tomorrow. Know that you're probably not going to get like as high as a grade as you wanted if you did have time to study, but you still have one night to study. So try to go over the big concepts, try to do what you can so that you can still show up to the day um, with some studying done. And don't beat yourself up too much about not doing it because there's always next time. And then other things you can do is talking to a friend. I think definitely having a support system is great. You all should rely on each other, maybe share notes, um, like try to teach each other things. That's great for active recall. But yeah, I hope that was helpful. And now it's the Q&A time. I saved about 15 minutes for the Q&A time. So if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and put that in the chat. Or if you want me to go back and reword anything, I can do that as well.
Hello, students. The floor is now open for questions. I hope that during the discussion, you took down some questions, some notes. And if you're,
I actually have a question.
oh, good, okay.
Yes, they're all little private messages. Cool, cool. Let's see. Someone asked, how is stress different from burnout? Okay, I'm just gonna go back to that slide for a visual reference. I stress is stress could be healthy and unhealthy. Stress would be would be how your body and your mind reacts to situations. But burnout would be like when you absolutely do not want to do anything. It's like you're experiencing so much stress that you're not able to do anything. So as you see here on the diagram, your performance would be at a complete low because you're experiencing so much stress. And yeah, stress would be like this whole diagram. Okay, and then to the person who asked me this question, just send me a message letting me know if that was a good exam. Okay. For our next question, how can I stay motivated when I'm feeling overwhelmed or uninterested in the material? Ooh, that is a great question. I'd say to stay motivated, feeling overwhelmed, I guess I'll break up the question in two. When you're feeling overwhelmed, I think the important part is to prioritize what you need to study first. like rank it, what you have to do versus what you don't have time to do, and really being realistic with what you have the capacity to do. Whenever I'm not motivated, I try to journal and think about, why am I doing this in the first place? Why why do I like why do I have to learn this? How is this applicable to actual real life? So I try to come up with my why and then prioritize material that I know is definitely really important. And to keep myself interested, I try to apply it to my own life. Um, and I try to, sometimes I even Google, like, I'm just like, why is this relevant to my life? So I hope that helped a little bit. If you'd like a further explanation, go ahead and let me know as well. Okay, I'm just reading the next question. Oh, this is a great question. If anyone else has any answers for questions their peers ask, feel free to please say that in the chat. Like, this is all like one big discussion. So this person asked, how does one motivate themselves to actually study? Great question. I agree. And how does one manage the guilt, should there be any, that comes when you fail to study, despite telling yourself you will? And in the same paragraph, would that classify as a type of burnout or something else? Ooh, I think what you're describing, I'd say it could be a symptom of burnout. Like the guilt that you feel about not wanting to do anything, about failing to. Let's see, I'm gonna break down your question because it's really great. Motivating yourself to actually study. I think again, trying to like really define your purpose as to what your long-term goals are with studying. Like, what do I get out of studying? Like, am I studying because I want a good, not just because I want a good grade, but because I want to get a degree, or I want to apply to college or like some career. Maybe that helps. Also surrounding yourself with people who study. Like, sometimes it's helpful for me to be around other people who are studying and to look at their notes for inspiration. Let's see, how does one manage the guilt? Should there be any that comes when you fail to? I resonate with this question so much. Like, there are so many times when I felt like, oh, I should be productive. Oh, I should have done my essay yesterday. Oh, I didn't spend enough time on my essay. I didn't spend enough time like studying for this. Oh, I got a B. I could have gotten an A. Like, there are so many times when I fail to like do things and meet my own expectations. And how you manage that guilt, I really think it depends on the person. But at least from personal experience, it's knowing what external factors are going on in my life, like like thinking about, oh, I have been really busy. I have been trying to manage all these things, and being like, me not studying is not because I'm not smart and I'm not intelligent. Me not studying, um, it's not like who you are, I guess. It's it's trying to like separate your character from that one decision of not studying. And being like, okay, next time I will study. And then when it comes to burnout, also knowing that it's a process to get back to going here. And it might take some time for you to get from being burnout to going back to the optimal area. And being okay with that process too. So engaging in self-care, talking to your friends. I think those were the main things that helped me get out of burnout. Okay, and some ways to deal with, I'm moving on to the next question. What are some ways to deal with stress? Um, there are different things you can do. Um, if you're feeling overwhelmed, um, something I like to do is to just get active. So that could be going on a walk, doing some push-ups, stretching, dealing, those are more short-term things. Like in the moment, I'm stressed, so I'm going to move my body around. If you need a little temporary distraction because you're feeling overwhelmed, you can engage in like a hobby. But I think ultimately it's important to identify what is stressing you out and trying to create an action plan and a solution for that stress if it's like a lot. But I think a combination of the short-term stuff like exercising, hobbies, talking it out with someone, and then also the long term of trying to know the root of the stress. Next question, how do you keep yourself away from distractions? Ooh, for me, I have it really bad anxiety. So I have to, when it comes to internal distractions, and I try to write things down and what I'm thinking of, like on a piece of paper next to me, and I'll be like, I'm gonna think about this later. So I write it down and then I get back to it after I study. Um, I also I'm trying to think about what do I do? I try to tell the people I'm around that I'm studying when they want to talk, just being like, oh, can we talk about this later? I'm studying right now. Um, scheduling time by myself, honestly, to just not do anything helps. Other distractions, wearing headphones, wearing, or what some other things I do, or listen to music, lo-fi music to help me stay focused as well. Okay. And if you would like some more tips on how to stay away from distractions, please message me. Yes. Okay. Next question is, what do you think is the most helpful studying method or technique? I am so happy you asked. I'll show you my favorite one. Okay. Interleaving is actually my favorite studying technique. Because it helps me know that I'm covering everything that I need to cover without spending too much time on one. Because I am someone who is like, no, I need to finish this. I need to finish this before I move on to something else. And then I forget about it. So I like interleave practice when it comes to certain subjects because it just helps me know I'm on track. But if there is a subject, but if there's like an exam coming up for one class, I do spend more time on that when it comes to interleave. But it's great to do interleaving. It's great for our brains to shift too. So that's why I love interleaving. There's actually quite a bit of research done on this. So I really advocate for interleaving as a study technique. Next question, do you have any tips on how to avoid zoning out while studying? I'd say to avoid zoning out, writing helps. Writing down like different key points. I like listening to music. Other things you can do while you're studying. I think if you find yourself zoning out, try to do all those active learning things, like what we said earlier, like flashcards. Try to move your body so that like you can make sure you're staying awake. But if you really find yourself that you're zoning out, I think you might need a 5-minute break to distract yourself and like keep your mind awake and active. So it's important to take frequent breaks. Yeah, just to make sure that you're rested. And I also find that having little snacks helps with staying on task too. Okay, next question is, what setting technique do you use and what is the best technique? Okay. I personally use interleaving. Pomodoro technique, I don't use this, but my younger sister loves this. I use the Eisenhower matrix when it comes to not only studying, but scheduling different things. I like this. It just helps me know like how to prioritize things. So I really like this one. I'm trying to think of other studying techniques that I've used in the past. I do that technique where you, let me look for it. Yes, this one where you review, recall, rephrase, and check for correction. Sometimes even when people are telling me a story or lecturing, I like raise my hand and then I say just to make sure I'm understanding this right. And then I say like a brief summary of what the person said, just to make sure that I said it right. And then if I don't say it right, they can correct me on the spot. And I find that it doesn't just help me, but it helps my peers as well, like hear it from a student's perspective. So that's something that I like to do. Okay, we have 5 more minutes. Let's see. Hello, do you have any tips or recommendations to students who feel pressure and stuttering when performing activities or reports in front of their peers? I love this question. I also stutter when I'm in front of people, especially during interviews too. Oh my gosh, it's so scary. But when I know that I'm about to do something that I'm scared of, like performing, or giving reports, I try to do as much preparation as I can beforehand. If I try to, if I know I'm going to perform in a class, maybe you can ask your teacher if you can use the classroom so that you can practice there. You can practice saying it in front of your friends, in front of your family. And also know that as for the pressure, I feel, I think I would say kindly talk to yourself and say, where is all this pressure coming from? Like, is it pressure that you're putting on yourself? And if it is pressure that you're putting on yourself, know that like everyone has had a starting point when it comes to sharing and like speaking in front of people and doing activities. So know that it's a learning experience and this is your starting point. But then once you do this, you'll feel more confident. And then the next time you'll do it, you'll be like, wow, I've done it before. I can do it again. You can also think of different instances where you've performed well. I hope that helps to the person who asked. I would love to talk in more detail about that with you. I realize we have 3 more minutes. And we have 18 more questions. I'm gonna do my best to respond to these maybe later if I can. Let's see. But I'll do my best to answer like maybe one more. Let's see. Okay. What do I need to do when I feel so tired and don't have the strength to study? I think you need to rest, recharge. Yeah, rest productively. When I say rest, I don't mean go on your phone and scroll on TikTok. Do not do that. That will actually make your brain more tired. It's helpful to go in a space where there's not much going on. If it's nighttime and you start to feel tired, then that's a signal that maybe you need to sleep. But if it's the morning and you're feeling tired, my recommendation for you is to go outside in the sun. The sun will help you give that vitamin D and wake your body up. And if you don't have the strength to study, I say, of course, take care of your physical body, but then your mental health as well. Like do your self-care techniques. And yeah. Okay. Zeke, do we still have time? Or should
Do you still maybe want to do one more question?
okay. We have a lot. Oh, I see. Okay, I will try. I will try. Let me look through the questions and see something we haven't really answered yet. Mhm. Oh, someone asked about resources. I'll send them to Zeke and then he'll send them to you. But I see your question. I see you. And then there's a question about choosing the path of psychology. How hard can it go along the way? I will also send you some resources about that. Let's see. Oh, how long does burnout last? Is delayed burnout possible? Like being very productive for years, but it's catching up to me. I didn't feel tired before, but I'm feeling all of it now. Ooh. I think burnout comes and it goes for me. I didn't start realizing I was burnt out till like the end of high school because it was always nonstop going. For me, I was also a very busy bee. I was involved in different clubs and all of that. Like I was always busy. Um, and then I continued that in my community college. And then it all caught up to me when I went to Irvine. I was just I was just so tired. Um, I think burnout stopped once I addressed it. Because if you don't address it, it's just going to get worse. And I think you it might come back like even after you address it, but it starts to but once you address it and like you're like, why do I keep feeling burnt out? Why do I keep why do I keep feeling this way? And once you like try to solve the problem about that, then that's when I feel like it goes away. Um, I do think for what really helped me was going to therapy because I was able to talk to therapists about why I was feeling so burnt out. And then also talking to other people who have had similar experiences as well really helped me. Yeah. Um, let's see. And then there's a quick question here. Okay, yes, I will share the resources later on. Okay. Yes. Is everyone doing okay? Also, if anyone wants, I know that, I don't know if this is okay, Zeke, but people want to leave, that's okay. But if people want to stay as well, um, while I answer questions, then you
Okay,
do.
so the program is just until 3 p.m. So here's what we're gonna do. I sent the evaluation form link to everyone on this chat or in this meeting. Please answer the evaluation form. You should provide your name and section there. If you don't, we can't issue you a certificate of participation. So if you want that certificate, please evaluate. And I'm sure your teachers will ask about it as well. So please make sure to evaluate the event. So here's what we're gonna do. We have come to I believe, the end of the program. So for everybody else who wants to stick around, are you still fine?
I'm trying to remember where I left off. Did I answer the question about what are some oh, I did. I did. Um, helpful studying tip, zoning out. Okay. Ooh, okay. So this person asks if there would be an art of learning and it's to learn, create, enhance, adapt, and control. Like, think of the process if you imagine the process of these keywords. It'll make learning a lot better, and you can learn anything from it. It makes sense. I promise. It makes sense. They just asked, does it make sense? But it makes sense. I promise. Also, is learning just a process or not? It is most definitely a process. It's like messing up. It's learning why you messed up. It's a whole process. Also, Zeke, if you have anything you want to add to, feel free to chime in.
No, this is your moment. I talk to these kids every day. They're sick of me already. Okay.
Really? I would
Actually,
never get you.
yeah, actually, I have a question. You said you love interleaving. I just want to ask,
Interleaving, yes,
would there be a
I love
can you give us like a specific example of when you used it in your life? Like, could you maybe
yes.
indicate like specific subjects that you use that on, or topics that you use that on?
Yes, for sure. I took I'm trying to remember my last quarter. I didn't start using interleaving until the very last moment. And this was because I didn't take the education class until my last quarter at UCI. Um, so I would use interleaving when I would have different projects and different study things I had to study for. So let's see. So for psych, we do a lot of reading, a lot of reflection time. It's actually really cool. But I'm gonna just make up one. So I was taking clinical psychology, and in that class, I had a lot of exams. I was also taking, let's see, I was taking a public health class, and we had presentations. And then another class I was taking, I'm trying to remember what else was I taking. Let's say I was taking a nutrition class, and we would have a lot of projects for that and weekly assignments. Public health, public health class I had essays. So basically, for my clinical psychology class, we would only have exams maybe every month. And then that was a pain. And then for my public health class, we had two big essays, and most of our grade was determined by the grade in those essays. And then for my nutrition class, one of my favorite class, we would have weekly what's it called? Weekly assignments. So I would prioritize whatever was first. So for nutrition, since I had something due at the very end of the week, or most urgently, I would start off with that. So I would start off with what was due first. So I would spend maybe an hour working on nutrition, and then, oh, I also have an assignment next week. If I have time later today, I'll work on that. So I'd check that off. And then I would move on to my public health class. I would start thinking about what I wanted to write my essay on. I'm reading any material, and I'd spend 1 hour doing that. And because that wasn't due until 2 weeks from now, I'd be like, okay, now I have time to study for my clinical psych exam at the end of the quarter. So I would spend some time studying for that for like another hour. And then after having done all that, I'd be like, wow, I'm so accomplished. And if I still had energy, I would start to get ahead and then work on my nutrition assignment that was due the next week. So that would be my thought process. Does that make sense? Or you think more explanation?
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
What about the rest
Thank
of
you,
the
Zeke.
people in the room? Have any more questions? Okay. We actually have do you have questions from your end?
Yes, I actually still have quite a few. Yes.
Okay. So I've expected that Patricia will be popular. She gave us her email address, so if you have questions that you want to send directly her way, you can send her an email. Actually the evaluation of responses are coming in already, and I just found an interesting question here, maybe before we let you go. How to not procrastinate? What's your take on that?
Oh, procrastinating. I still do that. And because I know I'm gonna do that, I plan ahead. But it's really hard. I think, have you heard that thing from that movie where it's like you only need 11 seconds of courage? I kind of think about that. I'm like, okay, if I really have to do this now, fine. I'll give myself 5 minutes. And then once I start doing it, I realize that, wow, actually, I can continue. I actually am in the right mindset to continue doing this. So I kind of just like, I'll just do it for 5 minutes and then see what happens. But when it comes to more long-term things with procrastinating, I think it's just sometimes I don't want to say just do it, but sometimes I tell myself, your future self will thank you for it. So do it now so that future Patricia will be really happy and proud. So it's for me, for how I overcome procrastination, it's just a lot of like internal motivation, like, wow, you did this. I'm so proud of you, Patricia. Great job. Um, yeah, it's just a lot of that. And then like what Lance was saying, like setting up a time and prioritizing, that is so true. Procrastinating is like a snowball, small little pushback on, yes, yes, yes. That's exactly what I mean when I say your future self will thank you. Because if you don't do it now, when are you gonna do it? Your future self is gonna do it. And then like you'll have so many tasks that you'll have to do in the future. So yeah. I just think if I just think about like wanting to give the gift of time to my future self. So, because I love myself. So yeah. I hope that makes I hope that answered your question.
Okay. I think if we keep taking everybody else's questions, we will never end this webinar. And so Patricia gave us her email address. Please send her your messages, your questions. And okay, Rainey, I'll say
Yeah.
I have an answer for that. Procrastinating is actually unavoidable. So to avoid it for always happening from happening, just be consistent and you remind yourself if you really want to do it. I agree with that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the rest of the people who stayed here, can we request for, because if you stayed here, we know you're committed. So you will turn on your cameras and we can take this proper group photo.
I also have a question. I was wondering who here has been to previous like things that I've been on, like previous events. Because I know I've been here since like 2021. So I was wondering if there's any 12th graders who have been here for a while.
Has anyone here attended the previous, Heidi has?
Oh, yay, Ivy.
The others,
Which ones were you part of?
The one about directing plays.
Ah, I see. I love that event. That was so fun. That was like the highlight of like all the events in my opinion. Actually, no, I love them all, but